Hello everyone. The question we are looking at right now is tithing mandatory for Christians? Is tithing mandatory for Christians? Tithing was a requirement under the Old Covenant given to Israelites. The New Testament or the New Covenant never mandated Christians at any point in time to compulsorily give tithe, but it strongly teaches on sacrificial giving, cheerful giving, and generosity in giving. The real question, as it is in the New Covenant, is not as to whether you are giving 10% to the church. The question is whether you are giving at all to support the work of God, and particularly, are you giving generously? Let's go to the scripture and see. In the book of Leviticus chapter 27 verse 30, a tithe of everything from the land belongs to the Lord. So tithing was part of the Israel's covenant system as it were then. It supports the Levites, it supports the priests, and is also used for helping the poor. And also when they have ceremonies like the Passover feast and the rest of them, the monies they've gathered are what they will use for those programs and events, and other monies coming in. Again, let's look at the scripture in the book of Genesis chapter 14 in verse 20. Abraham gave a tenth to Melchizedek. Then in the same Genesis 28 verse 22, and of all that thou shalt give me, I will surely give the tenth unto thee. That was a scripture in Genesis 28 we just read. Was the case of Jacob, when Jacob was voluntarily making a covenant with God and volunteering to give a 10% of all that he makes. So tithing existed even before the law, because the law we are talking about, Abraham, the law wasn't existing as at then, neither was Jacob. Neither was the time of Jacob that the law was existing as at then. So it existed even before the law that the Israelites based their tithing on were introduced. It was presented. It wasn't presented as a universal requirement for all believers. Now let's move down to the New Testament. The only place where Jesus mentioned tithing, that was in Matthew chapter 23, verse 23, where it says, "Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, for ye pay tithes, and have omitted the weightier matters." And I emphasize that again. The weightier matters, you have omitted them. Now, if you look at that scripture, you see that in the New Testament, there are things considered even of more value as a Christian than tithing. Or in your relationship with God, there are things that are of more value than tithing. Jesus talked about tithing by the Pharisees in that scripture, and this was before the New Covenant, because the New Covenant was established after the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. That was when the New Covenant was established. And through that period, when that covenant was established, you don't have any of the apostles talking about tithing. Not even Paul, with all his understanding of the law and how much he was so zealous of the law then before he joined the Christians. He never brought in the topic of tithing. But what you always heard from them was generous giving. It was generous giving. Some were giving even 10%, some were giving beyond 10%, some were giving less than 10%. It wasn't this rule-based system of make sure when you earn an income, calculate a 10% and come and pay in as your tithe. Let's see another scripture in the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 7. Each of you should give what you have decided in your hearts to give. So the emphasis in the new covenant is about generosity, giving according to how your heart leads you to give, and not because there was one rule set aside and saying that this is a specific amount that you are going to give. Let's look at the scripture in Matthew chapter 5, verse 17 to 18. Now there is a reason why I have to bring in this. Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled. So Jesus is saying that, look, I have not come to change the law. The law is there for you. If you want to continue keeping the law, continue keeping the law. It's all left for you to decide. And that the law has to be fulfilled. Generally speaking, that is what that scripture is saying. So the question is now as to, is there a value for those that stick to tithing? Yes. You can look at it in the book of Malachi chapter 3 and other scriptures that talks about it. There are rewards directly tied to tithing. And once you tithe without understanding, without knowledge, and expecting the rewards that come with tithing, that rewards will surely be yours. They will come and you get the reward. But the question or the picture I'm trying to paint here is, are you going to go down to hellfire because you have not tithed? The answer is a no. And the answer is clearly a no, because none of the apostles, after the new covenant was established, went back talking about and requesting for tithing. Rather, what we saw was sacrificial giving. Ephesians chapter 2, verse 8 to 9. Chapter 2, verse 8 to 9, it says, for it is by grace ye have been saved. By grace ye have been saved. So understand that your salvation is not by works. And the working of the law is focused on works. But your salvation and what qualifies you to enter into heaven is by grace and not by works. So there is no where the New Testament is saying you must tithe. And again, by tithing, there is a reward which will naturally, automatically come by reason of you tithing. And so the New Testament didn't abolish tithing, neither does it say tithing is compulsory. The New Testament standard is not necessarily 10%. In fact, it could be more, it could be less. What you have decided in your heart, according to we have read in 2 Corinthians chapter 9, that is what matters, your own heart decision. The New Testament does not command Christians to tithe, but to give, and to give generously. Thank you, and see you next time.